Welcome back to Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz. We had such a great interview with Sister Nancy in our last segment, and boy, do we have a treat for you now, because we have a very gifted educator, Dr. Perry Sangalli. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Archbishop.
Yeah,
great to be here.
We're proud to be here at St. Xavier High School, and we're proud of the great leadership you have as president.
Well, thank you. We're glad to host you. Glad to have you here.
Give you a little background for our viewing audience. Dr. Sangalli has made use of pretty much every Catholic institution here in Louisville. I mean, he went to St. X himself, went to Bellarmine University, and then to Spalding University. And right. I think it was, am I right, it was 1980 was the year in which you actually became an educator and administrator.
Here at St. X.
Wow.
Yes, a teacher in 1980.
And then it's since 2002 that you've served as the president here, the first
Correct.
lay president of St. X.
Yes, it's what a great privilege it is for me to continue the legacy of Xaverian education here at St. X, to have the opportunity to be faithful to our roots and to try to make sure that St. X is relevant to our students of today.
The Xaverian brothers for decades and decades have been so good to the church in Louisville and to forming
150 years here at St. X, and I guess 160 years in Louisville.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. Well, as we're getting in this, and I have to say this too, you are also a very gifted and accomplished musician.
Well, thank you.
I've celebrated Mass where you provided the organ accompaniment, and we were very blessed with it.
In some ways, I think that's some of the most important work that I do, and it certainly gives me a great deal of pleasure to assist other people in their prayer, but also to have an outlet that's very different from what I do during the regular workday here as a leader at St. X.
Well, Perry, thank you for that. Everybody's going to be interested, I think, in vocations, and here you have such a very beautiful vocation as an educator. Tell us a little bit about that.
Really an important role, I think, in our church, and for me, the stimulus for doing it, I think, was great teachers in my own life, and I think that's probably the heart of vocational call in some ways, of who are we exposed to as we are formed, as we grow up, that kind of attaches us to something or lets us see ourselves in something later. I had a great beginning at St. Helen's School with the Ursuline Sisters, where really an interest in academic performance and academic rigor was instilled in me, and I think I knew at an early age that I wanted to be involved in some way in education. Then I came here to St. X, and certainly that pattern continued. And an interesting story, I was an Honor Society tutor as a senior here, and I was tutoring French, and I became pretty proficient at doing it, so I would have a class of my own before school, 2 days a week.
You mean when you were a senior?
When I was a senior, as a student, tutoring all kinds of first and second year French students.
Well, a lesson for people who are listening, that when God reveals a plan, it can happen very early in our lives.
It can happen very early, and I guess you need the right people in your life at the right time, and you need to have your eyes and your ears and your heart open to what you can be called to do, and the rest is history, so to speak.
Well, that's great. I know I've seen some studies that were done recently about the effect that a teacher has in almost everyone's life. And so and it's been in my life too, and you just said in your life, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Certainly for mine, it's key teachers who did more than their subject, who showed me a path, who demonstrated meaning in their own lives that made me see something in it that I wanted to be, that I wanted to do, and I think it's been a great life for me.
You know, when you look at the emphasis on academic excellence and full formation of the young person in the church and in the world, Pope Francis talks about us being a church that evangelizes, that announces the good news of Jesus Christ, and in many, many ways, our Catholic schools, our Catholic high school, St. X here is such a major player in that. How do you see the work you're doing, in a sense, contributing to the announcing of the good news of Jesus Christ?
Well, I think for all of us in Catholic schools, we see ourselves as part of something that's bigger than ourselves, that's outside of ourselves. I think our focus in Catholic education on developing the whole person makes the young person, young men and young women, ready for whatever might come along their path a little bit later. And I think specifically as we continue to educate them in the faith and keep them involved in religious experiences, we become an anchor that continues to attach them to the work of our church in a sometimes a rocky part of life as they grow up and wrestle with questions about what meaning they find in this, that, or the other. We need to be present to them in a unique way to walk with them on that journey and to continue to point them to things that are outside of themselves.
Yeah, and in a very special way, I think foundationally is that presence of Catholic teaching and the conveying of that gift. And I know you do that so well here at St. X, so thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have 9 Catholic high schools within the Archdiocese. When you look at St. X, what makes you the most proud?
Well, first of all, I think when I look at our Catholic schools as a whole, we reach a lot of students in a lot of ways. And I think our presence is very strong in our community, and I feel really good about that, about each of our schools and the different niches that we hold and the different ways that we impact Catholic life and broader life in our local church, our local community. For us here at St. X, I guess first of all, being current to the current students, when I look at the students that we serve, when I look at their growth from when they come in from testing in grade 8 through graduation off the stage 4+ years later, I see that growth, I see the formation, and I know we're doing something that is inherently good.
You see the progress. You're like someone watching a plant grow.
Exactly. I mean, you can see the light bulbs go off, you can see the growth physically, you can see the growth in terms of their maturity and approach to life, their personal development, but also in their faith. We had a little project in a couple of senior religion classes just yesterday that I witnessed where they did a shadow box of important legacy moments in their life. And one of those moments was their spiritual connection. And a lot of those seniors used a gift from confirmation or from First Communion or something that one of their grandparents gave them that was a religious article that they were able to tie beautifully to what we hope they walk away with from Catholic school. So it's a great experience from today. I think when I look at St. X in a broader sense, since we're 150 years old, I look at the impact that our graduates have on so many professions and so many walks of life. And it's quite gratifying to see the impact that our school has had for all that time.
Every one of our Catholic high schools, I'm amazed at the graduates, and people are so proud. And whenever somebody's graduated from St. X, that's about the first thing they tell me. So
they do, and that plays well for us. We like that.
We have about a minute left. I'm sorry to tell you that it's that time, but I do want to ask you in this final minute, if you did picture 10 years from now, because you're here to stay, we're on this beautiful campus, what is it that most especially you picture?
It's a great question, Archbishop. You know, I think when I look at the future, we want to be part of preparing young men for full participation in their communities and in the life of our church. And I think we're on that road, but we need to continue to fine-tune that to be responsive to the needs of the students and of the church of the day. You know, when we look at things that impede that progress or the obstacles, when we look at finances, when we look at cost, when we look at how we are accessible to our students, those become things that I think we as a school community and we as local church really have to continue to focus on in the years ahead.
Wow, great answer. And you know, we're lucky in our community and our church to have a leader of your caliber. You've got a great reputation. Thanks for being here for this
my delight,
segment.
And my pleasure.
Thank you in the viewing audience for being here for this segment of Conversation with Archbishop Kurtz. Please stay tuned for our third and final segment for this month.